Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 52 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. As always, I'm here with Troy. What's up, Troy? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Not much going on. Big win for the Minnetonka girls over Maple Grove last night, or I guess yesterday afternoon. So that's good.
You had a Hockey Day Minnesota victory, huh?
Yep, we had a Hockey Day Minnesota victory. Lots of different hockey going on. It's kind of nuts.
We talked about it last show, but it's over now. Pretty successful day, I think, for the state in showcasing the game we love, of course. A bunch of high school hockey games. Obviously, you guys won. Then the Gophers trounced Michigan State again, I believe, right?
I think so. I don't know. I saw the Friday night game.
Friday night game was like a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome to watch. And then last night, big tilt between our Minnesota Wild and the young, up-and-coming, exciting Buffalo Sabres. Went into OT, ultimately shootout. Wild came away with the victory. Your guy, Troy, UPL, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Oh, I talk about him. He's going to be talked about today.
Oh, really? Yeah, he led in 3 straight shootout goals. But it was a pretty exciting game. And actually, I mentioned this on our Discord this morning, but my observations in watching the Sabres last night are, number one, in an era where it seems like all the young scoring talent is pretty small, teeny tiny, diminutive. Tage Thompson is a beast, man. That guy
He's a big dude. He's a big dude.
Very impressive. And the other guy that I thought was really impressive last night, at least, was Rasmus Dahlin, the young defenseman.
My takeaway was watching UPL go down the tunnel and slam his stick 100 times because he let in 3 straight shootout goals.
Yeah, he was none too happy about that. That is for sure. All right. We have a lot to get to today. Before we get started, though, just a reminder that the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast, which is the show you're listening to right now, is a Patreon podcast, which means that we rely on your support as listeners to help us cover our expenses in producing the show, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and help us to fund initiatives to grow the hockey hobby in even a small way. Right now, for $5 a month, you can be one of our first ever 99 supporters. Join our out of 99 support level tier. Get exclusive access to the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server. Become basically an insider in our show, help participate in everything that we do and give us ideas and just have great conversation. It's easy to become a patron. All you have to do is go to the Patreon website. It's patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. Or there is a link to Patreon in the show description for the podcast app you're listening to us on right now. And finally, in our social media channels, particularly in Instagram and TikTok, in our profile, there's a link tree that has a link to our Patreon page there. All right, Troy, you want to get going with the game plan?
On today's show, we begin with hockey's greatest player to wear number 52. Then it's on to movers and shakers. This is followed by a little discussion on print quality and the quality control dilemma that we have been seeing with trading cards lately. Then it's on to hobby news. We then take a look at the 2022-23 season rookie report, since we are a little bit over halfway, I believe, on the season. Mm-hmm. And we finish the show with new product releases. All right, episode 52. Hockey's most famous 52, per the Hockey Writers article, is one that Josh has heard of. I know it. Adam Foote.
Yes, I have. Adam Foote with an E at the end. I definitely heard of Adam.
Yep, Adam Foote. So no crickets, no cricket sound effects. We can have like an applause or something for you since you've heard it. But yes, Adam Foote, defenseman, E at the end of Foote. Just remember that. Defenseman, played 1,154 regular season games over a 19-season NHL career. Started his career playing 13 seasons with the Quebec Nordiques / Colorado Avalanche. Continued his career with 3 seasons with the Columbus Blue Jackets, which I totally forgot about, and then ended his career with another stint with Colorado. I thought he was Colorado his whole career, and then when I did the research, I kind of just forgot about this little blip in the middle where he was with Columbus.
Yeah, the more you know, Troy, the more you know.
The more you know. All right, awards and accomplishments. He is a 2-time Stanley Cup winner. 1995-96 season with Colorado and the 2000-2001 season with Colorado. He did win an Olympic gold medal with Canada in 2002. He did not win any individual NHL big awards, but his number 52 is retired by the Colorado Avalanche.
Does that surprise you?
I would have thought maybe like a Norris Trophy here and there, because I'll get into it, but kind of what he was. I remember him not being this offensive threat, but I just remember him being like a really good stay-at-home defenseman. And I thought maybe back in 90s that might have translated to a Norris Trophy, but that was not the case.
Yeah, well, and I'm just thinking too of his number being retired.
Yeah,
and he's a good player.
Oh, you thought that was? I mean, I was 16 years with Colorado. I think you play that long with the team, you probably deserve to get your numbers.
You win your 2 cups. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Regular season stats. This is where I kind of blew my mind. 66 goals, 242 assists for a total of 308 points during his regular season career.
That's like one Connor Bedard season.
Yeah, we'll see when Connor gets here. We can't wait. Made the playoffs in 13 of his 19 seasons in the NHL. He had 170 games played, 7 goals, 35 assists for 42 points. So obviously, I was just super surprised by the offensive numbers, but like I kind of said, Foote, obviously known for his physical presence. He was one of the best, we'll call it stay-at-home defensemen of his era. He was always out on the ice against the top lines. Definitely a physical player, had a career total of 1,534 career penalty minutes, which puts him 126th all time. And I've kind of struggled now. Like, I think more and more about penalty minutes. It's like, I know you're physical, but it's not a good thing to get a lot of penalty minutes the more I think about it, because you're at the end hurting your team if it's just you getting a penalty and not a coincidental penalty. But
with all the skill and scoring right now, it's a bad deal to be in the Wild. Our team it's been a big problem for us lately, is we're constantly putting the other team on the power play. I just want to go back to his points. So he had 308 career points in what you said, 19 seasons.
Yep, 1,154 games.
You think he'll end up with more career points than Mo Seider?
Oh, I was wondering if you were going to take a shot at Mo. I actually was looking at Mo today and just kind of shaking my head. I don't want to get into it. I feel bad. We pick on Mo so much. He's going to go off one day.
We'll move on.
Yeah. So, anyways, with Foote too. Another thing with him, and I thought this was interesting. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm not a plus minus guy, but for always being out there against the top line against the opposition, he was a plus 99 for his career, which I think holds a little bit of weight, even though plus minus isn't the most telling stat out there. Foote's best offensive season was the 2002-2003 season with Colorado, where he had 11 goals and 20 assists for 31 points. And I just made a note. When I saw this, I knew right away that when I get to the cards, there's not going to be a lot of hobby love, and it's going to be kind of just one of those, here it is. There's not much movement. So I guess we'll see if I'm right. He is currently an assistant coach with the Vancouver Canucks, being hired in the new Rick Tocchet regime. And speaking about Rick Tocchet, I love it. I think they won a game, but then Tocchet comes out and just says his team's soft. They're a bunch of softies. He starts ripping them. I loved it. It was just it's what I expect from him. All right, fun fact time. Foote was the last active NHL player from the Quebec Nordiques. There you go.
That is fun.
That's a pretty fun one. That's about all I could find, though. His rookie card is a 1991 Upper Deck, number 529. He is wearing the Nordiques jersey, so it automatically looks awesome. No matter what pose you're in, if you have your Quebec Nordiques jersey on, it is awesome. There are 25 graded PSA 10 copies. It has a gem rate of 69%, and here's where we get into the fun value stuff. The last sale I could find on that card was around October 28th. 2022, eBay buy it now for $50.
Jeez.
BGS 9.5 has 6 copies graded. Comp is $45. Last sale, November 25th, 2022. This card raw you can get for $1, and there were a lot of 30-cent, 40-cent auctions, so kind of depressing. But I knew it going in right when I saw his stats that this is what we were going to see. So it's kind of funny how you kind of pick up on that stuff now that we've done this for a while.
Okay, Troy, so I got a question for you.
Sure.
You get one retro jersey to wear to the ceremony to accept your award for Hockey Card Podcaster of the Year, which I really think is coming. And you can choose between a Nordiques sweater and a Whalers sweater. Which do you choose?
So I don't get the North Stars jersey?
No, because that would have been too easy.
Oh, I would probably go I'd probably go Quebec. I love the emblem. And plus, the Quebecs are always in my mind, too, because Lakeville North, which is a high school around here, they have that same emblem. And it's so cool, that emblem, how it's like the N and the stick or whatever, however they do it. It's just an awesome looking. Plus, they got I don't know what the correct term is. Someone will tell us on the sleeve, that on the shoulder, whatever. I can't even think of how to say it. It's got like the 3 points. It looks like a torch or something. What's it called?
No. It's the New Orleans Saints have it too.
Yeah, that thing. So all our French speakers and our Quebec listeners are going to yell at me because I don't know what it is. But that thing looks really cool too. So I go Nordiques.
It's the Fleur de Lis. That's what it's called.
All right.
Yeah, Fleur de Lis. Well, I think I would wear the Whalers jersey. So at least at the ceremony when you're making your speech, we don't look stupid, like too matchy. And I'd be like standing at the table clapping and heave crying for you.
Nice.
Yeah, so, all right, Adam Foote. Well, I've heard of him, so that's pretty awesome. Before we get into movers and shakers, I want to make a quick mention for our sponsor and partner and friends at Stand Up Displays. Thank you very much to them for helping to support us in the hockey card hobby. Big hockey card fans over there. You can get a custom stand or 2 or 3 made that will help or make displaying your cards at home or on your social media accounts so much better. They have a fantastic newer product called Direct Print, where you just send them a image that has, whether you're a breaker or you just have your own Instagram brand or whatever it is, or you come up with a design that helps show off your collection. You just send it to them. They print it right on the stand. It looks amazing. It's really fast. It's not expensive. It really is an amazing service. They also have pre-made stands for players like Ovechkin, McDavid, Crosby. And best news, Troy, if you use the promo code GONGSHOW, GONGSHOW, you can save 10% off your order. So go to standupdisplays.co. Again, that's standupdisplays.co. Check out their stands and custom options. And when you do get your stand made and do some posts, be sure to tag us on the post so that we can check out whatever design you came up with. Okay, Troy, movers and shakers. As always, we start with who's hot. I thought today we would go pretty like hockey card relevant with our first who's hot selection. And that would be Owen Power from the Buffalo Sabres. After starting the season, Troy, 42 games without a goal.
Yikes.
Power has scored a goal in 3 of his 4 past games. The 20-year-old Sabres defenseman is playing really in his first full NHL season. As you recall, he was the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NHL entry draft. So, Troy, that gives the Sabres 2 number 1 overall picks on the blue line, right? They have Owen Power and the guy I mentioned right at the top of the show, Rasmus Dahlin, who was selected first overall in 2018. So if, in addition to being Hockey Card Podcaster of the Year, you're now also an NHL GM, which I'm sure is a call you're expecting any day now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's coming.
Would it be hard for you to take 2 defensemen, number 1 overall, in such a short period?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would for me too.
Game's offensive. You need scoring, you need a punch, you need pizzazz, and it would be really tough to take 2 defensemen with the number 1 overall picks because they don't pan out or they don't do what they're supposed to do or they're not as offensive as people want. You have to answer all those questions.
Yeah, to make a football analogy, it feels like sort of taking a running back right now with the number 1 over. And this may work out swimmingly for them anyways, too. It's just probably an interesting strategy. We'll leave it at that. Season to date, Power has 3 goals now, 16 assists for 19 points in 46 games played. I also saw, Troy, that he is either number 1 or very close to the top rookie for average ice time. He's logging a pretty impressive 23 minutes, 39 seconds per game so far.
That's pretty impressive, especially in NHL. Now, you want to hear impressive. I'm not going to mention any teams, but we were doing some analysis of our opponents in the high school league. There's a team that has a player, and we play 17-minute periods, so it's 51 minutes for a game. There's a team that had a player on the ice for around 49 minutes of a game. So you want to talk about impressive. That's impressive. But
what?
Yes, I'm not kidding. And it's happened 2 or 3 times in their last 4 games.
In this team, they have more than 7 players?
Yes. It's pretty crazy.
And they're a legit team where it's not like some team where it's way out in the outskirts. And
nope. Completely
one farm with 9 kids.
Twin Cities suburban team. It's pretty crazy. But anyways, I'm off topic. I'm off topic on that. But anyways, yes, that is very impressive, especially for a rookie. Obviously, D, you can log a little more time than the forwards, but still 24 to 25 minutes a game is pretty great.
Well, I think, too, for a young player, it must imply a strong element of trust, right, that the team has in having him out in key situations as well. So it's probably a good sign if you are on the Owen Power bandwagon. You want sort of a fun fact for Owen Power, Troy?
I'm ready. I love fun fact.
After being selected number 1 overall, he made the rare choice to return to college and went back to Michigan for his sophomore year. That hadn't been done since our Minnesota boy, Eric Johnson, did it in 2006.
Interesting. Good for him.
I would assume that you get a hefty insurance policy when you do that, right?
Oh, for sure. I would.
Because if you, there'll be a story later on in the podcast that make that a little more relevant. All right, from a hockey card perspective, Power, of course, is a 2022-23 Series 1 Young Gun. Came out in November. PSA 10 already has a pop of 81, Troy, with a 41% gem rate. It's selling right now for around $220 US. The Young Gun Canvas PSA 10 pop of 26 with a 68% gem rate right now is selling for around $150 US if the canvas is more of your jam. Okay, next guy who's hot. Alexander Barkov. Have we talked about him yet?
I feel like it. I feel like his name, I've seen it, and I'm not sure when, but I feel like it's fairly recently. He's definitely been in the Discord. I've seen his name pop up in there.
The 27-year-old Panthers forward is on quite a tear. In his past 8 games played, he has 3 goals and 10 assists for 13 points. Now, I know, Troy, that I don't have a math degree, but I think that that's more than 1.5 per game.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah. Pretty smart. For the season, Barkov has 14 goals and 33 helpers for 47 points in 44 games played. He had 89 points last year with a career-high 39 goals. And his best point total was in 2018, where he had 96 points. His team, Troy, the Panthers, are currently 3 points behind Pittsburgh for the final wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. If you recall, after winning the President's Trophy last year and getting trounced in the playoffs, they made some pretty significant roster changes. I think most notably, of course, sending Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar to the Flames for Matthew Tkachuk. So it seems like they're still finding their groove as a team.
Better find it pretty soon.
Yeah.
You're almost halfway through the season. More than halfway.
Barkov, of course, is the Panthers' first-line center. He's been playing of late with wingers Sam Reinhart and Anton Lundell. Kind of quick tangent here is Lundell, of course, is a 2021 Series 2 Young Gun. And Barkov is a pretty good setup guy. So that's something to watch. Lundell's progress there if he can produce some points playing on a pretty good line. But back to Barkov. His 2013 Young Gun PSA 10 popped 243 with a 71% gem rate. Holy smokes. Last sold for $148 US on January 22nd. This card is down 41% in the past 3 months and 53% in the past 6 months. All-time high try for Alexander Barkov, 2013 Young Gun PSA 10, $609 US, set in April 2022. If you're
join the suckers club there, buddy. Yeah. Whoever bought that one, me and him are gonna hang out and discuss buying Young Guns PSA 10s at way too much.
So the card's down pretty significantly right now.
Yeah.
And I guess my takeaway is if you're a Panthers fan or Barkov PC guy, probably a good time to pick one up as the price is low and his performance seems to be trending up. So Alexander Barkov joins Owen Power on Who's Hot. And we have a third. Troy, who is it?
We do. Zach Hyman, Edmonton Oilers forward. Over the past 5 games, Hyman has 5 goals, 7 assists for 12 points, which is a 2.4 points per game average. Now, when I did this last night, McDavid only has 7 points in his last 5 games. So Hyman obviously is better than McDavid now. Confirmed. But on the season, Hyman has 25 goals and 32 assists for 57 points in 48 games played. His previous career high in points was last year when he had a total of 54 points in 76 games. So safe to say, he's already blown past that, and he should hopefully improve on that significantly. But now, here's where we get off the tangent. I get derailed. Fun fact time. I started doing research on this guy, reading about him, and of course, he's got awesome fun facts. Here we go. He owns 2 gaming companies, E11 Gaming and SOAR Gaming. So they're like esports, Fortnite, Then the other one does like media stuff around gaming. Pretty cool. And then he has also authored 3 children's books. They are The Magician's Secret, interesting title, Hockey Hero, and The Bambino and Me. So a book about Babe Ruth, and I think they're children's books. But again, fascinating stuff. All right, back to hockey. Hyman has been... Go for it.
Is it too late for us to switch the theme of our show to the Hockey Fun Facts Gongshow?
It should be. Like, I could just sit here and read fun facts all day.
Yeah.
Be fantastic. All right.
Go ahead.
So Hyman is on pace for 97 points this year. He has been definitely having a fantastic season. And with the Oilers, I don't think it's too hard. You know, you get on a line with McDavid or Draisaitl, and you should see some significant point improvement. All right, his rookie card. He's a 2016 Young Guns. It's number 222. The PSA 10 has a pop of 97 with a gem rate of 50%. Recently, sales for this card, they're kind of just bounce all over between $90 and $130 US. But technically, you can still find some below that or above that. They just seem all over the place, and I'm not even going to begin to try to tell you what the actual comp is. They just kind of bounce all over around that range. So if you can find it, you're a Hyman fan, you think he's got a good career coming up, and he's been around for a while, see if you can get it on that lower price range. But great season so far.
Yeah, and you have to give him credit, too, right? I think coming into the season, it was, can Evander Kane be the third guy, or anyone else on the Oilers produce points other than McDavid or Draisaitl, and Hyman and others have certainly stepped it up.
Speaking of Kane, man, did you see the interview? After every game, it's like, hey, here's hockey, but hey, how's your personal life going? And this lawsuit and your bankruptcy and your supposedly paid, your wrist, your paid, I don't know, medical service that you got for your pregnant girlfriend. I mean, it's just insanity when he gets asked questions. Like, I don't feel bad. It's just like, just don't talk to the media. Just walk away.
It's amazing he can put it together on the ice, but maybe that's sort of his escape from his life. Well, going from the personal struggles of Evander Kane to the on-ice struggles, the struggle bus pulls up, as it always does, on time, and hopping on board, Troy, looking around, and there he is, Jack Eichel.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think a good number of folks had thought this could be a big leap year for him. Kind of like Tage Thompson, right? He was maybe fit into that mold. The guy's been around a little bit, had some adversity, and now is going to finally break through. From what I recall, too, anyone knows, our memories stink, but he had a pretty hot start to the season. I think he was on the who's hot side of this conversation a few times, at least once, maybe twice. Anyways, though, over the past 10 games, going back to January 7, he's got 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points. That's not great. Starting to see some articles as of late, too, Troy, that talk about things like poor body language and effort away from the puck. So seems like he's in it from a slump perspective and feeling it, and it's starting to get to him a little bit. Season-wise, still not terrible. 15 goals, 19 assists for 34 points in 38 games. He is 26, though. So, again, this is kind of the year he's running out of runway to make that big leap and from a hobby relevance standpoint and long-term value perspective. I don't know. Are you an Eichel guy, Trey?
I don't know. I've never have been. He's almost like this isn't fair, but he's kind of like my Ryan O'Reilly. I think that I always pull him in hockey card packs for some reason. Just I get an inordinate amount of Jack Eichel cards. But I've never been the biggest Eichel bobo. So I would say I'm not an Eichel guy. I don't know why. It's not like I haven't watched him that closely, but I've just never been that big of a fan.
It's amazing. It's kind of like a Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf scenario. I remember how closely he was compared to Connor McDavid, right? And there was the debate, it makes you sort of think a little bit ahead to Connor Bedard. And I know you're hearing names like Adam Fantilli and maybe a couple others, but I don't think there's going to be any sort of who should you take number one. It seems like it's Bedard with a bullet, but I don't remember exactly going back to McDavid, but I know Eichel was sort of in that kind of 1A, 1B at least conversation, and just hasn't worked out quite as well, of course. His 2015 Young Gun PSA 10 popped 954 with a 51% gem rate. Troy last sold for $150 on January 28th. This is down about 25% over the past 3 months and 42% over the past 6 months. All-time high for the 2015 Eichel Young Guns PSA 10, $625 set, and you guessed it, January 2021. So here's another one that's down 75% from its all-time high. Who's joining Eichel on the struggle bus here, Troy?
All right, we got a new one joining Eichel. This guy on episode 41, he was on the Who's Hot, Alex DeBrincat. He's now the tide has turned, and now he's jumping on the struggle bus for a short trip, hopefully.
What, do you switch to a goalie or what?
I know we've had a lot of goalies on the struggle bus lately. Nah. But DeBrincat, over his past 5 games, he has 1 goal, 0 assists for a paltry 1 point. Ick.
Yuck.
This season, DeBrincat is having a fairly decent season. 15 goals, 24 assists for 39 points in 48 games played. Puts him on pace for 67 points, which would be below his last year output of 78 points. However, remember, he's with the Senators now. Senators overall have struggled. I think they're definitely not where many thought they would be. They're currently sitting 7th in the Atlantic Division. So overall, just kind of a bad year. But recently, DeBrincat has definitely been struggling and earned a well-deserved reserved seat on the struggle bus. His rookie card is a 2017 Young Guns number 221. PSA 10 has a pop of 433 with a gem rate of 48%. Currently valued or goes for around 75 to 90 US dollars. Early October, this card was going for around 145 US dollars. So down a little bit, obviously, but I still like DeBrincat as a player. I have his PSA 10, and I think I got it right around for that $90 range, if I remember right. It was a while back. I'd have to look it up again. But good player, definitely on the struggle bus, having an okay season. I think they would like a little more production out of him, but we'll see if he can step it up and get off the struggle bus next week.
All right, so that is Who's Hot and the struggle bus for today's Gong Show. So remember, on Who's Hot, we had Owen Power. Who else do we have, Troy? God, I can't even remember, like 7 minutes ago, Coach. Zach Hyman and Barkov.
Yeah.
And then Eichel and DeBrincat on the struggle bus. Okay, now we're going to switch to a conversation that I think some more.
This is juicy. This is juicy.
We don't get juicy really often.
Let's get into it.
You ready? Take a deep breath. Ready. Say a prayer. It's a conversation that started in our Gong Show Discord, which you can get exclusive access to by becoming a patron. And it's around QC. Primarily hockey cards, because that's what we do. But I think we can broaden the conversation a little bit more to trading cards in general. And we've seen some pretty egregious, to use a big word, examples lately of poor quality control, Troy. Most notably, of course, the Babe Ruth 1-of-1 booklet. I think we talked about that on last show. That is supposed to have a cutout auto of Babe Ruth, but has a auto of George Brett instead, who is not Babe Ruth, of course. Hockey also hasn't been immune to this, and just right off the top of my head, we had the Artifacts release last week, and I've already seen a Connor McDavid dual patch that includes Boston Bruins patch. Not great. Even looking back to last Artifacts, we just did our top sales from 2021 Artifacts prior to the new set coming out, and there's 3 Trevor Zegras autos in there, and somebody pointed out one of the autos is upside down, and this was on out of 5 Artifacts dual patch auto card. So that's kind of a biggie, huh?
To me, that's kind of funny. And it's kind of unique. And it's Zegras. And I could totally see him looking at the card. It's upside down and just saying, I don't care. Sign it and go.
It was a label, though. So somebody
put the label
on.
Put the sticker on backwards?
Yeah, they put the sticker on upside down.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
I also saw somebody opening up 2022 Artifacts that only had 7 packs in the box, despite 8. And there's a million instances that goes way beyond Artifacts. We had some issues with SP, and this isn't a get mad at Upper Deck topic either. I think it's just a bigger and important discussion. There's a couple key questions that I've been sort of thinking about that came out of our Discord discussion. The first question that I have is, do you think there's more errors or QC issues now than there were before? Or, Troy, is it just that all these become much more visible really quickly because there's all these social media sites and influencers and shows like ours that can shine a spotlight on them? Do you have any gut feeling?
Yeah, for sure I think it has part to do, probably both, But part, I think, for sure is the amount of social media and how everyone can now take pictures really quick and post what they get. Like you just said, a lot more social media. I think errors are out there quicker. But also, it seems like the amount of just different cards and variations and patches, and I don't know if this has increased over the years, but it seems like we've talked about this. You look at these spreadsheets of all these releases, and there's so many cards on some of them. And to me, that's just ripe for QC issues or errors to occur. Obviously, patch cards, I don't know how they're made, but I'm assuming you got to slide a patch in there, and it just, if there's a lot, it leaves it open to errors and QC issues. I would love to know the rate. Like, I gotta believe it's almost under I think when we see this, we want to think, oh my God, it's like 5% of these cards, there's errors. I bet it's fractions of 1%. But I do think that the amount of cards and all the different designs and parallels and inserts and patches, coupled with the amount of social media and how influencers and how they can get this stuff out there quick, breaks, people are breaking product left and right, crazy on hockey stuff. We just see it. We see it a lot more than we probably did in the past.
I think that's a good point. I especially like your point about just the total quantity of cards on the checklist. And that's something that you always look at, I know, when checklist comes out. And Isn't it like on average something like 4,000 to 5,000 different individual cards?
Like one unique individual card, and that doesn't even count the, start adding the 5s and the 10s and the, it gets pretty mind-boggling once you really dig into those checklists.
I spent 4 or 5 years working at a company that had a big print facility. And what I can tell everybody for a fact is that you can print these cards perfect, right? So this is not a conversation of impossibility. I look back at my time at that company I was at, and I think, like, Troy, our error tolerance on, like, centering, so we would print documents, was something like 1/64th of an inch.
Yeah.
Meaning that if it was more than that off center, we would throw it away and reprint it. We can develop cars now that drive themselves. We can certainly print OPG Platinum cards that are centered. So to me, it's not a matter of the ability. And so then it comes to why. And the first, and I think most logical, or one of the more logical possible answers, is cost savings. The faster that printers and cutters and collators run, the cheaper it is to print. There's also a matter of waste, right? So if a whole bunch of cards are printed and they're off center and the demand is to be perfect, then you would throw all those away and reprint them. Well, then you have a lot more material costs and you have a lot more time on printers, which costs money because you have to reserve that time and pay for that time too. And it's very competitive. I also know at these big print facilities, it's hard to get space to do print runs. And we've heard rumors that Upper Deck is not as big as Panini or Topps Fanatics, but that's an issue for that. It could be an issue for them in finding time on those printers that are being bought up by everyone else. Now, as collectors, is any of this stuff kind of quote unquote our problem? No, right? But it might help us understand the whys. Like, why are these QC issues happening? And I don't know, thoughts on that, Troy? I mean, did you think that ultimately it's a cost issue, that they're just...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it totally comes down to cost and speed. And if anyone's checked out the Instagram account, I know we're a family show, but I'm going to say it, Card Porn, they have a video of, now it's from 10 to 12 years ago, showing the collation and cutting of cards. And I don't know how much has changed from then, but you can see how fast they're running through, slicing, collating. You can see where this quality can get dinged up. And obviously, if Upper Deck's going to have the cards go through and take forever for each sheet, they can probably get 100% quality control with no errors. If they go super slow, make sure all the cuts are perfect, but they can't. You think we complain about products not coming out now? I think if they did that, we would be getting like one release every couple of months if they had to take their time. But yeah, I think it totally comes down to cost, speed, competition. Mm-hmm. I don't exactly have as much background in the printing game as you do, but I got to believe that's part of it. And like we've kind of talked about with Upper Deck in the past, they can't sit there and pull every card off the line and look at it. It's infeasible. It can't happen. Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely, we know we don't like it, but I think we know why. We can kind of figure out why some of this stuff happened.
I think to embedded in all this, there's also a deeper and more philosophic question behind the imperfection in printing in sports cards and hockey cards in particular. It's that in a weird way, now wrap your head around this, Troy, is it almost beneficial to the hobby in that it helps create scarcity. And I'll explain this for a second here. So back in the day, right, when sports cards were first being produced and printed, they had no value. They weren't seen as anything that has value, right? So kids would buy them as a toy, and they would fling them around, throw them at each other, flick them, draw sunglasses and cigarettes on their player, put them in their bike spokes, do whatever they do. And then, lo and behold, so this is the 1950s, fast forward to, well, I don't know the exact year, 88, 89, and all of a sudden, or maybe a year or two before that, but all of a sudden these things have value. And you go back and you start rummaging through dad's or grandpa's cards, and it's not a big surprise that hardly any of them were in really, really good condition because they were never thought to have had value, and in such, they were never treated as having value. Well, now we spend huge amounts of money on boxes, and we open them, and you look at, like, breakers have gloves on, right? Because they don't even want oil from your skin touching them. And you open them out of the pack, and they go right into the penny sleeve and correspondingly right into the top loader, right? Because we see every sports card as having value, which is, I think, part of the reason why we're so upset when there's QC issues. But the broader point here is, and I guess interesting question to talk about and maybe think about, is if the cards were all printed perfect and then they all went from box to pack to penny sleeve to top loader and remained perfect, would there even be a market for sports cards at that point? Does this make sense?
It makes sense. I was also thinking about our discussion with Jeremy on the Parkhurst and how they were, what was it, the first couple were collated in cement mixers, basically. They would just throw them in and spin them around, and that's why you don't have any very good quality cards. You don't have any PSA 10s coming out of that. But yeah, I definitely get what you're talking about. And there's two viewpoints, right? As a collector, if I'm just collecting and I could give a rip about value, I don't care. Whatever. I mean, I'll just collect what I like, and we'll do that. But if you are an investor or flipper, this becomes a lot bigger issue. I think you're onto something. Definitely, if everything was pulled out perfect PSA 10s, grading companies go away, and I think value kind of decreases because everything's perfect.
Well, you might be happy if grading companies go away.
No, I don't ever want people to lose their jobs or anything. I need the process to be easy. Once the process is simpler, I'm all in.
I got you. And none of this sort of philosophical question is to let Upper Deck or any card manufacturer off the hook either. I'm not trying to say that, they're doing the hobby a favor by putting a Bruins patch in a McDavid card, right? That's not, we have to hold them accountable to producing quality products. But where it becomes an interesting question, I think, is to what extent, right, would that actually hurt the hobby?
Yeah, and to another extent too, I mean, mistakes will happen. I do think people get into this mode of these things have to be 100% perfect every time, and it just can't. It won't. Find me any industry where everything's 100% perfect. It won't. It's not out there. I hate to bust your bubble, but there are going to be errors, and it's kind of what rate the error rate is and how we react to them. And you can scream from the rooftops that you think Upper Deck's the worst, but guess what? They're going to happen. It's going to happen. Mistakes will happen.
Which is 100% true. I don't even know if this is a counterpoint, but what I would say to that is it's easy to have that perspective until we know, it's hard to get good big hits in a box. Like, we've opened plenty of boxes that we get nothing. And if you do open a pack and, oh my Lord, there is a McDavid double patch card there, how deflating would it be at that point to have the patch swapped out? Like, I know, like, when we opened up our game used pack, right, we had that manufactured Messier card with the Eddie Belfour patch in it, and it was kind of funny at the time because big deal, right? It's a $10 card at most anyways, and I guess in that case it gives it a very unique little fun thing to talk about. It's not real upsetting. But if it's like I said, like a McDavid or some other really important or potentially incredibly valuable card, I can understand when people are just ticked when that happens. And
I'll say, I also will understand when people are ticked when we've seen it on breaks where you open every pack in a box and we'll say, like, this is just an example, say the canvas cards are always dinged at the top. That can be frustrating when it's every card out of a box that is, that there's that one card that's dinged, or that I can see being frustrating. But I try to take a step back and take a deep breath. And maybe it's because I'm not as big of a value or investor flipper perspective, but sometimes you need to take a deep breath and realize that these mistakes will happen. But I get that Conor McDavid's example would be perfect. If it came out, you're just like, oh my God. All right.
So I think that's a pretty good description or outlaying of the challenge or the problem. But Troy, we're just not here to pile on. We're a solution show.
Yep.
We want to bring solutions to the marketplace. So let's kind of give our ideas and, importantly, how we could fix this scenario. Before we do that, though, I do want to make one more tiny point. I think we do have to also acknowledge that there's in front of the curtain and behind the curtain. And there's certain things or factors or variables that we as collectors or hockey card podcasters don't necessarily have access to that may affect kind of how this issue is perceived. Right. And we just don't know what those factors are. Should we care? I don't know. But just wanted to acknowledge that point, too.
Some of this is truly we're speculating because we don't have the insider knowledge. Like we have not visited a packing facility and watched these cards being packed or went to a pack out when they insert the rare cards or the hits of the pack and stuff.
I just had a crazy mental image of Laverne and Shirley, me and you going to the upper deck.
And she's doing the chocolate malt balls or whatever. And she's trying to boy, we're aging ourselves. We're not that old, but we've seen that episode.
The cards that are whizzing by, and I'm like, oh, and I try to touch one, and they all fall off the conveyor. That'd be classic. Okay, back to topic at hand. So I was trying to think through potential solutions here, and I guess the first one is kind of obvious, but, as collectors, is this just something we deal with? I don't really think so, but what do you think?
I think I'm a little more forgiving and can just deal with it. However, you run the risk if you don't say anything that it progressively can get worse or there will be no change.
Do you think this issue is causing people to leave the hobby, or is it just something that people gripe about and move on?
It's a good question. I honestly think it's something people gripe about and move on. I can't believe people would truly leave the hobby just because you get quality issues here and there, because guess what? It's every company, it's every sport, it's every pack of cards. So I have a hard time believing people, not saying that there hasn't been, I have a hard time believing a lot of people have left the hobby because of this issue.
So I did come up with, I think, one potential solution that I wanted to run by you, and then you can throw your ideas into the ring too, Troy. As I've kind of thought around this issue, if I was Upper Deck, I think I would set aside, when I'm looking at a set and I'm building out the set, and you have this checklist that has 5,000 unique cards on it, I think I would set aside, whether it's the top 1%, 2%, or 3% of the most important cards in the set. And I would have somebody at the print facility inspecting these cards, making sure that they're right. Because these are the ones that get all the publicity, that go viral when there is a schmuck up. And if you could at least ensure that these cards don't have anything egregiously wrong with them, like the autograph is there, it's not upside down, the patches are for the right team, there's not, the patch isn't half hanging out of the cutout, or the corner isn't mangled, that sort of thing, that if you're Upper Deck, you could avoid at least a lot of the huge negative publicity that comes out. Like in the case of the Babe Ruth, right? If there's one card in that set that Panini, I believe, right? That Panini or Topps had to be.
It was Panini, National Treasures. It was Panini.
That Panini produced that didn't have an error, that's the card you would pick. I think if they take that mentality to this, that you could avoid a lot of these issues. And because there's not only, and I think this gets back to the point you made a few minutes ago, Troy, that who knows to what percentage this is really a problem. But when you have a card like the Babe Ruth, or a really high profile, really important card in a set, it's the perception that creates that does a lot of damage. You like this idea or no?
I can get on board with this when it's those 101s, maybe out of 5s, but it's at what point do you stop? That's right. I think there's only so much they can do. Obviously, I believe 100% 101s and low numbered ones, they probably should check them, or the huge, patch autos to their best of their ability. But again, it's like, what point do you stop? And I don't even know how it really works. I have no clue how this whole process works. But, are you allowed in the facility? Can Upper Deck send people in? They must. We know they do pull cases, and they'll go through cases to check them. But you never know. You might have picked a case that went through a great print run and all that stuff. So I definitely think there's something here. I don't know what at point it becomes too cost prohibitive or slows things down to do that.
I've actually done that, Troy. I've gone to a big print facility and done what's called the press check. Now, there's a big key difference in what I did and what happens in sports cards. What I did is, let's say you're producing a catalog, and you're going to buy 200,000 copies of this catalog. You'll go do what's called the press check. So they'll run the initial 500 or so, and then you'll sit there and you'll inspect and make sure that from a color and a layout and centering and all cutting, collating, that everything's okay. And basically the printer forces you to do that, because once you give that sign off, then they're running the 200,000 copies of that. And they're saying, okay, it's on you going forward. We're not reprinting these at this point at our expense, right? You're taking responsibility for it. Now, in the case of sports cards, it's a lot different when it's not one card being printed 200,000 times, 5,000 different cards being printed anywhere from one time to who knows how many times.
Thousands of times.
So in that case, it's a lot more complicated. I get it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We want to hear from you guys. So send us some messages via social media, or if you're in the Gongshow Discord, message us there. Kind of curious as to how big of an issue you guys think this is, what solutions you have to it, and how it's really impacting how you are investing, and not just from a money-making standpoint, but whether it's in your PC or you're investing yourself into the hobby and collecting. Is this something that could potentially take you out of hockey card collecting? So look forward to
I'm still going to throw in, this isn't really the quality control perspective, but I still wish they could scan every card. I know we've been told that's not very feasible, but I think it's just with the whole patch thing, I still would love it. I would it's Troy's perfect world. You could go out to Upper Deck site, or whoever's making the hockey card, go out to the site, click on the set, click on the card, and then you could see, here's the 1 through 5s, click on each one. Kind of how Jeremy Lee had that site built out. But I think it'd be awesome for every card. Now, again, we've been told that would be almost impossible, but it's still Troy's utopia world that this would happen. I think that'd be so cool.
Make it happen, Troy.
Do it. If I can figure out a way to do it. I mean, whatever. I'm not going to get into it. I don't know. I do not know the logistics of printing hockey cards or adding a scanner to it, so I should just shut up.
All right, we're going to roll into hobby news real quickly. Start off with a couple injuries to report. Austin Matthews, supposed to miss 3 weeks, Troy, with a knee sprain. Found it interesting that they disclosed knee sprain versus quote-unquote lower body injury. It rarely happens in the NHL.
Yeah, they try to be so sneaky about it. But I don't understand why some teams do say, maybe if it's so obvious, there's no reason to hide it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why they want to hide it, because if I know you have a wrist injury and you're playing, guess what they're going to do? They're going to target right for your wrist every time. People are going to go in hard. They're going to bang your wrist and then try to add a little discomfort to your game.
Maybe if it has to do with, it's not an injury you can play through. If it's an injury where you have to wait until it's healed to come back, that might not matter at that point. Kind of feels like I don't know how way to put this, but sort of a punt in this season for Matthews, doesn't it? Where he hasn't been bad, but can't really get things going. And I've also heard, Troy, that he has been battling some nagging injuries throughout the year, and that may have...
Yeah, that could be affecting him. And plus, there's the whole thing, even this isn't really about his play, but how he's, when he gets picked on, he just kind of sits there and laughs at him. He's not fighting back, and his teammates were kind of having some issues, and who knows. I think it's funny when he's getting just clubbed in the back and he's sitting there laughing at him, kind of funny.
He'll also miss the All-Star festivities. Just a note there. Also, rookie Dynamo Matty Beniers, Troy, is expected to miss only a couple games, but upper body injury, but we'll have to follow that. Defenseman Shane Gostisbehere from your Arizona Coyotes is out 4 to 6 weeks. Upper body injury sustained against the Anaheim Ducks on Tuesday. So those are the most notable injuries. Did you see, Troy, that the Capitals and Hurricanes, who will square off in the 2023 Stadium Series, I believe in February, unveiled the jerseys for the series. You can find them anywhere online. But the Capitals one in particular that has a big eagle on the front of it and kind of like extends onto the shoulders and sleeves, I think is pretty cool. Take pictures.
I saw that the teams were announced. I did not see the jerseys. Okay, I'm looking at them right now. Okay, I like Carolina's. I like the dark, the red, simple.
Nothing crazy about Carolina, but it is really cool. And anytime you go with the all sort of black look, that's always pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think I like both of them. I can live with both of them. I like them.
To me, these are always notable because I picture them in some sort of like big Ovechkin insert a year or two from now. As it gets released, that, could this jersey show up on one of those cards and then add a little bit of significance to the card because it can be pointed back to the 2020.
You know what? Now that I look at it more, I wish the Capitals, the Eagle, was just a little bit smaller. I think it's way too big, but still, I can live with the design.
Not a big Eagles fan? Get it?
No, I'm a big Eagle. I don't mind the Eagle. I just think it's too big. Oh, did you notice? I didn't see this. This is cool. Did you notice in I don't know what you want to call it, the middle of the eagle is it looks like a Capitol building almost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did notice.
I bet that was intentional. That's pretty neat.
In other news, Troy, Andrei Kuzmenko signed a 2-year extension with the Canucks for an average annual value of $5 million, or I think $5.5 million US. Noteworthy because I think many thought that the struggling Nucks might use him as a very attractive trade bait for any team that's sort of in win now mode. He's a old rookie. I don't know what we're calling him, but he signed for peanuts as a free agent. He's produced amazing results. And I think the idea was that the Canucks could have gotten him, any team could have traded for him because he made so little that it's not really a salary cap consideration. And given his play, that you could maybe have gotten a couple of young stars. And if the Canucks are in a rebuild mode right now, why wouldn't you do that? But they go ahead and sign him for 2 years. So thoughts on that trade?
I'm curious if that was like a Tocchet. Was he signed, do you know, after Tocchet was hired? I can't remember.
I believe so.
I wonder if that was a Tocchet kind of directive. He told the GM or the president, let's keep this guy. I really like him. But
maybe.
You think with the Canucks and their whole situation, if you're going to go straight rebuild, you would try to get some prospects.
And I think it's a big bummer for a lot of teams that are in the playoff hunt or want to do damage in the playoff because he, like I said, is a real meaty target, given that I think he made like $1.5 million a year or less than that or something like that. So, they went and re-signed him for 2 years, and he's 26 now. So through his 20, I guess next couple seasons he'll be 28. Troy, this one's for you, buddy.
Yeah, I saw this.
We had an E-Bug sighting last night.
Yep, it's awesome. Great. It's the greatest. It's like one of the greatest moments in sports is when the E-Bug comes into a hockey game.
E-Bug, of course, stands for Emergency Backup Goalie. In last night's contest, this would have been Saturday night, between who were the Oilers playing? I forgot.
Chicago, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oilers in Chicago. Matt Berlin, who's in his third year at the University of Alberta, is the Oilers' emergency backup goalie. Got into the game before the game, he was suited up because Stuart Skinner went down with an illness. So they had him suit up. And I think this is pretty awesome. I don't know, and this might have happened before, but normally when a guy like this gets into a game, it's truly an emergency situation. But with the Oilers up very comfortably, 7-3, and with less than 3 minutes in the game, Oilers coach Jay Woodcroft signals to Matt Berlin that he's going in the game. And he did close it out. I think he made one save.
Yep.
Right. But kind of an awesome story, I think. And I don't know, has Upper Deck ever made a card for an E-Bug?
I thought they did a couple of years ago with one of them, but I'm not 100% sure. If they don't, they should, because I think it's awesome.
Wouldn't the dream be for a guy like this to get in the game and then somehow does amazing and kind of becomes like a Kurt Warner in football story where it goes from E-Bug to Vezina Trophy winner and Hall of Fame?
Yeah, they haven't had anyone do that, but there was that one guy, I can't remember the name. He came in there's been a guy, I think, for the Blackhawks and maybe the Hurricanes 3 years ago, 5 years ago, somewhere in that range, where one of the guys came in and made like 12 saves. Like, it wasn't just some, last couple minutes. He was in the game making saves left and right, and it was just fantastic. And it's also important to remember with E-Bugs, like, there's one E-Bug for the game. So he can go to either team depending on who needs him. But I've always wondered what happens if both teams need an E-Bug. Now what do you do? Just kind of forfeit or what?
I don't know. Good question. All right, well, that's hobby news. We want to get into now what Troy talked about in our rundown. I think another kind of fun little deep dive or conversation into what I guess we'll call our 2022-23 rookie report. As you had mentioned, Troy, in the rundown, again, a little more than halfway through the season. So it seems like an appropriate time to kind of check in and see how these guys are doing it. We broke them down into 2 categories, skaters and goalies. I'll take skaters, and we'll have our world-renowned goalie coach, podcast host, and future NHL GM take the goalies after that. So I think the first thing to note I'm not sure hockey's unique in this, but when you talk about rookies, it's not as straightforward as one might think, of course.
Nope.
Because there's the rookie season, like the official NHL rookie season, and the year that their rookie card, which most people refer to as their kind of flagship rookie card as the Young Guns, do not necessarily come out in the same year. Great example of this is Matt Boldy, where last season was actually his official rookie season. He played 47 games, right? But for whatever reason, Upper Deck didn't put out a Young Guns until Series 1 of this year. On the flip side of that, Troy, you have a guy like Mason McTavish, who was a Series 2 Young Gun in 2021, is in the midst of his official NHL rookie season right now, right? So you kind of have to always kind of flip back and forth between, and we'll take a look at a little bit of both, but primarily we want to focus on the rookie playing season or official NHL rookie season that's occurring this year. I looked at this a couple of ways, Troy, from a skater perspective. The first is we can look at, and I'm not going to list all of them, but maybe kind of keep it short, like top 5 points by rookies to date. Looking at the top 5, so we have Matty Beniers, who right now has 36 points, is on a 62-point pace. He's number 1 currently in rookie scoring, followed by Cole Perfetti, who, here's a guy who is a 2021 Young Gun, has 29 points. He's on a 48-point pace. Third is Mason McTavish, who has 28 points. He's pacing for 47. Fourth is Kalen Addison from the Wild, of course. He's the only defenseman in the top 5, Troy. Has 24 points on a 42-point pace. And Ken Johnson rounds out the top 5. He has 23 points, pacing for 38 on the season. From a goal scoring perspective, because we know the hobby is driven primarily by goal scorers, and that's where a lot of the hype gets created. So Matty Beniers, again, is number 1. 17 goals. He's on a 29 goals pace, followed by Wyatt Johnston from Dallas, 13 goals, tied with Kirill Marchenko. We haven't talked about Marchenko yet, but he's got 13 goals on the season as a rookie. He's tied for second. Then fourth is Shane Pinto with 12. He's another 2021 Young Gun. And then Mason McTavish rounds out the top 5 goal scorers with 10, right? So again, to recap, and then we're going to do some contextual comparisons here. Points, you have Beniers, Perfetti, McTavish, Addison, and Johnson. And then top 5 goal scorers, again, are Beniers, Wyatt Johnston, Kirill Marchenko, Shane Pinto, and McTavish. So if we look at last year's point leaders as a comparison, so last year you had Michael Bunting, who had 63 points, and Beniers is pacing at 62 for the year. So they're pretty close to right on. Followed by Trevor Zegras at 61 points, Lucas Raymond 57, your guy Troy Mosider at 50, and then Anton Lundell had 44. Now, we just talked about Beniers and Bunting, who led last year kind of dead even. But then again, from Beniers, it goes to Perfetti, who's pacing for 48 points. And that's quite a bit more of a drop-off than we had last year when we had Zegras and Raymond with 61 and 57 points, respectively. Last year, Tanner Jeannot from the Nashville Predators led all rookies with 29 goals, or 24 goals, and that's behind what Beniers' pace is. Kind of a mixed bag looking at last year to this year, but seems pretty similar overall. Historically, when we look at rookie scoring and goal leaders, I think most people know, but it's a good reminder, the all-time best rookie season was 1992, and Teemu Selanne had 76 goals, and I think like 135 points or something like that.
Wow.
I didn't write that down, but that's crazy to think of in the context of today, right? And so again, we're looking at this year's rookie class. We're thinking Matty Beniers, who's pacing to 29 goals and 62 points. He's a runaway leader, right, from a scoring perspective. And compare that to Teemu Selanne's 76 goals in 92. Some other notables are Ovi had 52 goals as a rookie in 05-06. Evgeny Malkin had 33 goals in 06-07. Cole Caulfield last year had 23, right? Kaprizov had 27 goals in 2020. All in all, Beniers is having a pretty dang good year, with a little historical context. But though, this is where we go back to hobby news, the Kuzmenko thing, right? He's too old to be Calder eligible. So I don't know. I'm still confused as to what you call this season for him.
Yeah. Did you read over the definition real quick? I didn't remember you have it in the notes of like what the NHL counts as a player's rookie year.
Oh, yeah. So it looks like I missed that. So an NHL counts a player's rookie year as the first season where they play more than 25 games as long as they haven't played more than 6 games in each of the prior 2 seasons. And this is to be Calder eligible. I think they also can't turn 26
some with the age, right? Yeah.
Before like September 15th of their rookie year to be Calder eligible. And that's where, and we talked about this, I think a handful of episodes ago, where Michael Bunting made it by like 2 or 3 days. And I think Kuzmenko is like a January or February birthday. And so he missed that deadline by 3 or 4 months, something like that. And therefore he's not Calder eligible. But where again, Beniers is pacing for 29 goals, 62 points. Kuzmenko in 48 games already has 21 goals, 22 assists for 43 points. So he's got more points than Beniers. He's pacing for 36 goals and 73 points. He's definitely ahead of Beniers.
Yeah.
It just depends on, and I don't think he'll ever get it's hard enough for Kaprizov, who started when he's 24. Here you got this guy's 26. Going to be a problem from his hockey card perspective. So my key takeaway is, Troy, and before we get into like the hockey cards and the values piece of this, is that number one, Beniers historically seems to be having a pretty, not a stupendous or record-breaking year, but a really solid rookie year that should give you some confidence going forward. Second takeaway is the whole Kuzmenko, however you factor that into this, which I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of interpretations there. And then the third thing is kind of, and I'll have to go back, is that you look at, I just want to talk for a minute about Mason McTavish, who right now has 28 points, pacing for 47. I think he's 5th in rookie goals with 10 to date on the season. Based off the summer he had in the World Junior, kind of dominating the World Junior Championships in August and all the momentum he had riding into the season, feels like a little bit of a disappointment so far to me. All right, so from a hockey card perspective, we are a hockey card show. There's 8 current rookies that we've mentioned either leading in the top 5 in points or top 5 in goals, and only 2 of those do not have a Young Guns card out yet. So that would be Wyatt Johnston from Dallas and Kirill Marchenko from the Columbus Blue Jackets. There's no rookie card for Kuzmenko either. I kind of feel like we have to keep throwing him into this because it's hard not to.
Yeah.
Matty Beniers and Kent Johnson are the 2 2022-23 Series 1 Young Guns. And then you have four other guys. You have Keelan Addison, Cole Perfetti, Mason McTavish, and Shane Pinto are all the 2021 Young Guns. So if we take a look at and now kind of break this down by now the hockey card perspective, where again it goes based on whatever set year Upper Deck puts them into, and we'll start with the most recent in 2022 Series 1. You have the Beniers Young Gun, which kind of leads the way there, and rightfully so. He's above and beyond, kind of leading all the rookie point producers, goes anywhere from $80 to $100 raw at this point. And we're starting to see the PSA 10s trying to trickle in, and they're kind of, I don't want to do a lot of comparisons there because the values are always sky high when the first few months when they start rolling in, and then they tail off. And so I just think it's not an accurate picture. So he leads the way. Second is Owen Power, who we talked about and who's hot. He's in the $35-$40 US range raw. He's currently 11th in rookie scoring, Troy, with 19 points. A little more hype still than production. I think there's a way you could look at that. Third guy is Matt Boldy, who was a rookie last year. I believe finished 10th in scoring as a rookie, where he played 47 games last year. His Young Guns raws in like the $28-$35 US range. Now, one little point of comparison, just from a raw perspective, is he was right up there with Beniers when Series 2 came out. So his values have dropped pretty significantly. He's not having a horrible year this year either, but I don't think is shining quite to the degree Beniers is. Next, so we have in 2022 Young Guns, our kind of updated value rankings are Beniers, Power, Boldy. Then we have Jack Quinn, who, Troy, is not related to Jack Hughes or Quinn Hughes, although he does share both their first names. He's in the 13-16 US raw. He's currently 14th in scoring for the year in rookie scoring, followed by Kent Johnson, who was in our top 5 point producers with 23 points on the year. His raw Young Gun is 10-15 in the 10-15 US range. So maybe he's a guy who could be a little undervalued right now. If you think that, you do your research and feel like that he could be a solid point producer and contributor going forward. And then the next guy is more on the prospect side. Guy, I think, whose name has been coming up more and more lately. It's Lucas Reichel Do you feel like you've been hearing his name pop up more?
I feel like it. A little more than I used to.
He's in the 10 to 15 U.S. range from a raw young gun perspective. Just starting to get some run with the Blackhawks. I think he's only played in 4 games this season so far, so mainly an AHL guy. So that's your updated 2022 Series 1 raw young guns values. I feel like, too, that just coming out in mid-November, that the slide has happened pretty fast on a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of settling into their price, and now it's going to be really performance that dictates where the value comes from going forward. The guys that still have, I think I would point to Owen Power, who's probably the one guy that's still kind of got a lot of hype baked into his value yet still. Then last thing we'll do is go quickly into the current rookies, but whose young guns were last set year, so 2021 young guns. And it's the 4 guys that we mentioned who are in either the top 10 in scoring this year, top 10 for goals. First guy is Kalen Addison, and we're going to use their PSA 10s here because their cards have been out for a while. His PSA 10 Young Guns is Pop 32 Troy with a 24% gem rate. Yikes. I don't know if a lot have been submitted, though, but that currently sells on average for 110 US. Then we have Cole Perfetti, who's Pop 479 with a 54% gem rate, currently selling right now around $100 US for his Young Guns PSA 10. Mason McTavish, 830 pop count on his Young Guns PSA 10, 60% gem rate, just like Perfetti, $100 US. Interesting. I would have never guessed that in almost February, based on the summer McTavish had, that his Young Gun PSA 10 would be the same value as Cole Perfetti.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then Shane Pinto, who's Young Guns PSA 10, again, 2021, Pop 137, 37% gem rate, so really low, selling right now for about 58 US. If you're big guy on Pinto, and I know we hear about him a lot, $58 for Young Gun PSA 10. If you can get it anywhere close to that, that might be a decent buy. So that's kind of a rookie overview on skaters. Any questions or comments or concerns you have about any of these guys, Troy?
Nope, no comments or concerns. Seems pretty, it seems right on. About what I figured.
All right. No, you did some goalie research.
Goalies are a little different. Just a lot of these goalies, the reason I went back to that definition is you're going to hear some names of like, well, that guy's played, this is like his 3rd year. Yep, it might be his 3rd year, but guess what? He hasn't met the definition of a true rookie until probably this year on a lot of these guys. So just kind of basically, if you look at the season so far for rookie goalies, there's basically a pretty good top 5, and then the rest of the rookies kind of just drop off drastically. So that's what I did. I just took a look at the top 5, looked at their stats to give an overview, and then kind of looked at what their rookie cards are doing. And I believe only one of these guys is a current year Young Guns, so a 2022 Young Guns. Mm-hmm. So first one I got is Logan Thompson. I want to give ages because we've always said goalies are older when they becomes rookies, and that's very true. Logan Thompson, 25 years old. He has 35 games played. He's 19 wins, 13 losses, and 3 overtime losses. 2.69 goals against average with a .913 save percentage and 2 shutouts. Josh, do you want to glow up now or later about Logan Thompson?
I want to glow up, but I feel like the last month hasn't been like
shoot, I was setting you up. I said definitely has come back to earth recently. So he had a great start, and then kind of reality's kind of set back in. But he's not playing terrible. Regressing to the mean, I guess, for him. Best way to look at it.
Well, because of him, I look at a lot of Knights box scores.
Yeah.
And I also feel like they're losing a lot of 1-goal games right now, too.
Very true. He is a 2021 Young Guns. His pop is 157 of the PSA 10. Gem rate, 42%. This card trades in the $80 range.
Okay.
You know what's really weird lately when I was looking at all these goalies? It just seems like values are just bonkers, like all over the place. There's not a tight range on a lot of these. They seem to jump all over the place looking at Card Ladder, Teradata, eBay, all that stuff. It was kind of odd. Maybe there's something there but I didn't get that deep into it. All right, second guy on our list, Stuart Skinner, 24 years old, 28 games played so far. He has 13 wins, 10 losses, 3 overtime losses, 2.92 goals against average, .914 save percentage, no shutouts. So if you remember, Skinner kind of wasn't slated as the starter, but he has taken over the starting role from Jack Campbell. I just said it would kind of be interesting to see how this plays out the rest of the season, because if you remember, it was either last show or 3 shows ago, we had Campbell on the Who's Hot. So he's kind of turned his season around, but Skinner's still getting starts. I think you still consider Skinner the starter, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Skinner is a 2020 Young Guns. His PSA 10 has a pop of 297 with a gem rate of 76%. And again, I wrote sales have been in the $90 range, but bounce all over the place. So take that for what it's worth. And now the guy I mentioned way early in the show.
Can I ask you a Skinner question real quick? When you look at his resume at this point, do you see a solid number one NHL goalie? Or
I don't know.
Or not? Or are you not convinced yet?
I'm not convinced, but he had that hot run, and now if you watch his numbers are creeping up and up and up. Like goals against is going up, save percentage going down. It's kind of interesting. He is 0.001 points above Logan Thompson on save percentage, but I think it's going in the wrong direction. So I'm not convinced that he's a true number one starter.
We've never talked about this, but I would assume that when it comes to making investment type hockey card choices into young goalies, one of the most important questions to ask or try to figure out is this guy a backup or is he a starter?
Yeah.
Right? So that was kind of the basis of my Skinner question.
Or do we just say don't? If you're looking at investing in goalies, don't. That's also an option. All right, third guy on the list. Talked about him. I said I was going to bring him up. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Josh's favorite name, I think, in the whole NHL. UPL.
Is it the funnest name in the NHL? It has to be, right?
Along with him, and you like JJP. You like to yell at some JJP.
JJP!
And you like Wi-Fi, or Jack-Eye. Arbor Jack-Eye. All right, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. He is 23 years old, so he's a young pup on this list. 20 games played. He has 13 wins, 5 losses, 2 overtime losses. 3.26 goals against average with a .901 save percentage. No shutouts. His rookie is a 2021 Young Guns. PSA 10 has a pop of just 20 and a gem rate of a paltry 22%.
He's not very good at shootouts.
No, not good at shootouts, and likes to break a stick when he can't save a shot.
Matt Zuccarello made him look silly last night.
Yeah, he's.
But in fairness, Tage Thompson made the Flower look pretty silly too. So
that's true. But he's on Buffalo, so that's got to be fun. Like we said, Buffalo seems like a really fun team. His Young Guns recent sales for the PSA 10 around $80,
and that's kind of like the missing link in Buffalo, right? They need this is like our guy, number one goalie type guy, whether it's Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen or somebody else. And their team too, we've talked about that. It feels like over the last 4 years, they've had about 70 Young Guns goalies.
Yeah, it always seems like there's this new guy.
So if one of those guys can figure it out.
Yeah, I was looking up something real quick because they got Ukko, and then they have. I remember they had 2 other goalies that got playing time this year. I just wanted to see who it was. Craig Anderson and Eric Comrie. Okay, I just want to make sure I had that right. All right, so that was Ukko. So our fourth guy, we've talked about him recently, Pyotr Kochetkov, 23 years old, 19 games played, 10 wins, 4 losses, 5 overtime losses. Now, 2.33 goals against average, .913 save percentage with 3 shutouts. Well, guess what? He's in the AHL. He came up for Carolina, had played fantastic. You could argue he probably was playing the best of any goalie on this list, but Carolina got back, was it Craig Anderson, and they also have Antti Raanta. So they made the decision to send Kochetkov back to the AHL because I guess he could clear without waivers. That was one of the big things. So
it's Frederik Anderson, not Craig.
Or sorry, I just read Craig Anderson for Buffalo. Frederik Anderson, yes. And I guess that's one of the big reasons they sent him down because he was waiver exempt, so no one could claim him. But
the other one too is if you look at his 2.3 goals against and his .193, if you remove the last 4 games he played, it would have been the greatest numbers of all time. He was pretty bad in those last 4 games.
Yeah. So I guess I see the reason they did it, and if it works out, great. I think he's going to be a good goalie. He seems like he's got it in him. He's the one guy on this list that's the current Young Guns. However, his pop, it's a 2022 Young Guns. The PSA 10 has a pop of 42, which kind of surprised me. Gem rate, 43%. This one is wildly all over the place, from $100 to $160, and it's still selling pretty regularly. It's not like him getting sent to the AHL stopped that train or anything.
Wouldn't you, though, if you were of the mind to get a young goalie rookie card, I would think I would be much more inclined to buy an Ottinger Young Gun PSA 10 where I don't have the price in front of me. But
it's always trends around that 100, isn't it?
Versus spending $160 on Pyotr Kochetkov.
Well, yeah, if you want Kochetkov, just wait till the offseason. Hopefully you'll dip it down and you can get it for cheaper that way too. All right, number 5 on the list, Dan Vlader. I always want to say Vader, but or Vlader, whatever.
It'd be cooler if it was Vader.
Yeah, someone will tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but Dan Vlader, I'm going to go with, or Vlader. I don't know. 25-year-old, 19 games played, 11 wins, 4 losses, 4 overtime losses, 2.77 goals against average with a .906 save percentage and no shutouts. Definitely had a rough start to this year, but has come on strong as the season has progressed, and he's maybe a who's hot candidate. He's 5-0 in his last 5 starts. Looks like someone on this podcast is slipping on goalies. I don't know who that would be, but and I will say this: if you remember way back when we did kind of season projections, he was on the Troy list of potential goalies if you want to invest in for cheap that were in like that super cheap bucket. That was if you wanted to get one of them. He was on my list, so I guess I got one right. Maybe he is a 2018 Young Guns. I will repeat, a 2018 Young Guns, Pop 5. Gem rate 29%. Don't even try. There's no recent sales. I couldn't find any. Maybe there's one out there, but not a lot of PSA 10s of Dan selling. I forgot to mention too, Kachekov, since he's kind of a newish Young Guns, you can get his raw for like, I don't know, $10 to $20, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Just a little Ottinger update. So if you look at the 3 most recent sales, there's a fixed price one right at $100 US, but then a couple auctions, one at 87 and 83.
Ooh.
That's where if I'm going to buy any young goalie, that's what I'm buying.
Yeah, I agree. And I said this already, but I did write this note too. Just remember, like, it's interesting that all 5 of these goalies have had playing time last year. All of them played last year. And in fact, I can't remember 2 or 3 of them probably played 2 years ago too. But they never hit that threshold to be considered not a rookie. So they all are currently rookies this year in the NHL. But we got to figure out a way to make that simpler, don't we? Like this whole definition of what a rookie is. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's a whole mind-twisting thing.
All right, and just one quick note. I didn't go into the whole stats detail or the values. Just if you were wondering, who are the top goalies last year? Very quickly, it was Jeremy Swayman, Spencer Knight, Kaapo Kähkönen, Karel Vejmelka. I said he played a lot, but he had really terrible stats. But he was definitely one of those rookie goalies. And then there's Alex. I'll get this wrong. Nedeljkovic. That, boy, did I watch a YouTube video of some Detroit sports guys. Boy, they hated that guy. They had no love because he's been playing awful recently. And they're just saying, if you have a backup that you know you're going to lose every 1 in 5 games or whatever that you play, because you got to put this backup and you got to get him out of there. So it's kind of interesting. And I think he actually did get waived, went right through waivers. No one claimed him. So now he's in the minors. So I think they did make some movement on him. So it's kind of interesting. That's what we got for goalies.
I like saying Karel Vejmelka too. I just like to say it.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for him based on that. Well, that was our rookie report for the year. I'm sure we'll do something to recap at the end of the season, which amazingly Troy will be here before we know it. I guess stay tuned for that. Okay, wanted to bring up PWCC. I had intended to do a very quick mention, but then I found this card that's on their fixed marketplace. I'm just got sucked in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, you went down a rabbit hole. You probably found like this guy wrote children's books or something.
No. This is
no. I saw it.
Stay tuned for a second for that. This is pretty awesome. But just a reminder that the current PWCC Weekly is already live. Be sure to go to PWCC Marketplace, check out all their hockey cards. We'll do a preview on Wednesday's show. But Troy, there's some absolute bangers on this week's PWCC Weekly, so I'm really excited for that. Also, a reminder to check, look out for our social post, which should be dropped today or maybe tomorrow. That'll recap the top sales from last week's PWCC Weekly Hockey. And then a final reminder that I'm doing a show with Jeremy Lee each week, right at the end of the auction, to talk about kind of the sales and some of the unique cards that are in there on Jeremy's Sports Card Live YouTube channel. Last thing I wanted to mention about PWCC is just another reminder to check out their fixed marketplace. They have almost 4,200 hockey cards on it, Troy, encompassing all budgets, right? You can get cards well into the 6 figures to under $50 US. And as I was perusing the fixed marketplace, here's the rabbit hole. I stumbled across this card that I didn't know a lot about, admittedly. It's a 1933 Worldwide Gum Howie Morenz impersonato. So the card was autographed. And it's from 1933, of course, and it was PSA DNA. And what got me looking at this card was, it's like, boy, you don't see too many cards that old that were autographed. So it's like, what kind of amazing foresight that some fan or collector had to take this hockey card from 1933 and go get it signed by Howie. I just thought that was cool. And then, of course, I'm like, well, who was this guy, right? And this is where it gets just fascinating. And maybe some hockey diehards already know this. Maybe some don't. And I thought if you didn't know who or have a great understanding of who he was like I did, it would be worth kind of telling his story real quick. So he played for 3 NHL teams, most notably, Troy, the Canadiens, from 1923 to 1937. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 3-time Hart Trophy winner. What's crazy, though, is the story of kind of his final game and ultimately his death. So I'm going to kind of read. I just thought this was too good, and we've done this a few times, but it's sort of straight out of Wikipedia, and I just think it tells the story better than I could. So the Canadiens played the Chicago Blackhawks in Montreal on January 28, 1937. In the first period, Morenz went after the puck in the Chicago end while being chased by the Blackhawks defenseman Earl Siebert. Morenz lost his balance and fell onto the ice, crashing into the boards and catching his left skate in the wooden siding. So like the boards that were like wood side, and there's just little gaps, and apparently got his skate caught in the gap of the boards.
Yeah, think about like outdoor rinks usually are like all wood and have these gaps. Yeah.
Okay, now this gets a little cringy, and it's gonna be. So he lost his balance and fell on the ice, crashing the boards, catching his left skate in the wooden siding. The defenseman that was chasing him from the Blackhawks, Siebert, unable to stop, landed on him with full force. Ooh. The resulting impact snapped Morenz's left leg, creating a noise heard throughout the rink. Ugh. Helped to the Canadiens bench by his teammates, Morenz was taken to Hospital St. Luc, which must be or have been in Quebec, it's still there, and found his leg was fractured in 4 places. The Canadiens coach Hart was initially hopeful Morenz could return after 6 weeks, but after learning of the severity of the injury, conceded that Morenz would not be able to play for the rest of the season, right? So he's out for the year. So after breaking the leg, he's in the hospital, he's trying to recover. He was unable to move from his hospital bed, which is an important note. And while recovering there, Morenz received many get well cards and visits from teammates, players from other NHL teams. There were so many who brought drinks that a teammate remarked, the whiskey on the dresser and the beer was under the bed, right? They're just bringing a lot of booze, I guess, which I don't think you could necessarily do at the hospital today. Though there were many visitors, Morenz awfully found himself alone in the hospital room, unable to move off his bed. To pass his time, he kind of read newspapers, stayed to date with the Canadiens as they finished the season. And because he was injured and he was such a great player, his team dropped from the standings, causing him to worry, and he began to think he would never play again and ultimately became depressed, right? So the Canadiens team doctor visited in late February and determined that he had suffered a nervous breakdown, and he banned anyone but family and like team executives from the Canadiens from seeing him. So on March 8th, right? So he was injured on January 28th, and on March 8th, he's still in the hospital. He began complaining of chest pains, which doctors had attributed to a heart attack. And they called his wife, Mary Morenz, and Cecil Hart, the Canadiens coach, to come to the hospital. But around 11:30 p.m., Morenz tried to get out of bed to use the bathroom, collapsed on the floor, and died from a coronary embolism caused by blood clots from his leg and not moving. Yeah. Right? They know now that if you can't just lay in bed, and you're going to
get up. Even on long flights, get up and walk around.
And so he died at 34 years old, moments before his wife and team executives could come to the hospital. Right? So here's a guy who gets injured in a freak accident during a game and ends up dying in the hospital as a result of it. He's one of the 9 original inductees into the Hockey Hall of Fame, which opened in 1945, and his number was retired by the Canadiens. Just kind of a really cool story behind, again, here I say this card that's from 1933. It's autographed by the player, and obviously an important player to the history of the game. And now, Troy, I'm assuming you have my Christmas list open on your phone right now. Just check to make sure. Asking price is $250,000 US, $250,000 on this card. So it ain't cheap, but what a cool card. I think it's just an indication of the stuff that you can find on the PWCC fixed marketplace.
Yeah, so and another just
had to tell that story.
That's really a very interesting story, I guess. Sad, ultimately.
Oh, yeah.
But, and just to tie it back to Minnesota, to be good Minnesotans, I believe the last NHL player to die from an on-ice injury was Bill Masterson from the Minnesota North Stars. I think he got checked and went head first into the boards. So there's a little additional, I guess, death on the ice story, which not fun, but it is interesting and a unique part of history.
Okay, now we got to get into new releases real quick. And this is kind of a big time for new releases. A lot of times over the last few months, it's been like, what do we say? You know?
Yeah, remember when it was like, I don't know, nothing. Here's this big list. We don't know when they're coming out. Now it's like boom, 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 boom.
So a lot to talk about today. Want to circle back before we look forward to last week's release of 2022-23 artifacts, some additional thoughts and observations there. General consensus, Troy, from the feedback we've heard from people, what we're hearing from breakers, and our own personal experience is that people are really liking 2022 artifacts, even a lot more than last year's, which just came out a few months ago.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I was trying to think, well, why? Like, what's the difference? And For whatever reason, in the 2022 version of Artifacts, I think there's a really nice mix when it comes to like the box hit between acetate cards, game used patches, and autographs, right? And those are cards that collectors generally like. There's been we had a banger of a hit along those lines, just posted the video to social media. Probably one of our bigger hits in opening boxes. So that was kind of fun. So go to our TikTok or Instagram and watch the video of us opening the pack there from 2022 Artifacts. We've seen also some pretty big pulls. I don't know if you saw this, Troy, but I think it's on the Mint Inc. Instagram site. There is a dual Gretzky McDavid auto Orem that was pulled. Did you see that one?
I did not.
Oh, that is super nice. That would be a tough one to scratch to collect the bounty on, huh? You'd have to want the bounty real bad to wreck a dual McDavid Gretzky auto card, I would think. Actually, I don't think those cards are redeemable, but yeah, they're just kind of on the... Oh, and then speaking of 2022 Artifacts, on the bounty update, there is somebody that's already redeemed all 48.
Yeah, yes, we said it. There'll be people that are crazy with this stuff. I don't know if these are people that buy cases of it and just start ripping and seeing what they can do, or
hammer eBay.
Or hammer eBay. Because what I know, I've sold a couple RM cards on eBay, and the people I've sold them to obviously still send the card, but they'll send you a note saying, "Hey, they pay for it. They're just like, can you just send me the code? I don't even need the card, but just send me the code. Yeah. You'll still send the card.
And they want the code now because
they want the code now, but still send the card in case they try to say you never did. But yeah, it's pretty interesting how the chase for those.
And there can be a big incentive too to getting one of the top prizes. So I went onto the Upper Deck Bounty website, and so for 2022 Artifacts, there's 3 kind of top prizes. So the first 3 to redeem all 48 bounties. So this way you get, Troy, you get a 12 card rookie achievement set. You get 2 rookie achievement cards, 1 auto achievement card, and 1 dual auto achievement card. And usually in these bounties, like the top kind of rookie, like an Orem in the case of Artifacts, would be like a something to Cole Caulfield or last year's rookie or one of the big this year rookie cards or something like that. So going back to that, what you're just talking about, how much money do you think people spend to get one of these top prizes? I mean, it's got to be
what's $1,000? Yeah, man, it's got to be a lot. Like
Any other observations or thoughts you had on the new Artifacts release?
No, I've liked it. I've watched it. I haven't actually bought any personals of it. I guess I don't know if I was waiting for the price to go down eventually. I don't know. Too lit. I complain about this all the time. Local card shops around here always close at 6, and when you got work, coach hockey, it's just like you never have time to get there while they're open. So maybe that's the reason I haven't actually went and bought a personal box.
So now we go from Artifacts to 2 days from now, and the next release comes out, which is wild to think of, right? We kind of knew that this had to start happening for Upper Deck.
It has to happen. If you want them to get caught up, you can't. What is it? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't sit there and be like, oh, they need to spread. No, they have to do this or they will never catch up. We've went through the calendar, the math. They have to do this. So kudos.
So on Wednesday, 2021-22 Synergy comes out and the checklist is out. So that's a pretty strong indicator that it's going to happen. Important point to note here, too. We just talked about 2022 Artifacts, which is the current rookie year crop. Now we're going back a year to 2021. So if you want your Caulfield, Zegras, Swayman, right?
Yep.
Mo Sider, Lucas Raymond, Synergy cards, this would be a good set. We did a design preview on Instagram and Facebook, so you could go check that out on our social media if you want to get a good idea what the cards look like and how the set is configured. Troy, do you want to do a logo review on Synergy?
That's what I was bringing up. I want to show you the logo. It's like I've talked about this many times. To me, it looks like an energy drink. I don't know why. I don't know why it bugs me so much, but it just does. I'm not a big Synergy just because of the logo, but I actually looked at the design or the checklist. You're going to get into this, but not a lot of autos. I don't know if this will be a set that I will be very interested in, but I'm curious to see, watch some breaks. Maybe I'll get on board and you'll talk about some other things that are in this set.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you mentioned, it's when you look at the checklist, which you can go to Cardboard Connection or Beckett and find it there. Lots and lots of numbered cards. Autos are pretty tough chases. So the most common player auto is 1 out of 228. I think the overall auto odds are 1 out of 80 packs. And there's I believe 8 packs in a box. So that's 1 in 10 boxes will have an auto if again, not a math show, but if my math is correct on that. And I think the individual player odds go up to like 1 in 1,900 packs for the best players. So pretty tough auto chase there. Lots of number cards, lots of number parallels. This is another bounty set. The bounty cards are red parallels. Again, you can go to upperdeckbounty.com. I think when the set is released, they update that site. There's nothing as far as the rewards on the bounty site as far as I've seen, but 125 redemptions to get. I thought 48 with artifacts was a lot. Holy cow, 125. It's a hobby box is 8 packs per box, 3 cards per pack. So really tiny packs. Right now, kind of pre-sale, Troy, is $99 US in the States and $130 Canadian in Canada. So it's roughly the same amount. So, I mean, really you're spending $100 for, 24 cards. So $4 a card, roughly.
Yep.
It's kind of got to hit some big ones to make that work. As far as like in the design, the cards I really like the Cast for Greatness cards. And I think there's a Cole Caulfield Cast for Greatness is the big reward card in the bounty program. Last note on new releases is we just did another preview, just came out from Upper Deck. They released their sell sheet for 2022-23 Black Diamond. So now we're going back to 2022. Got to do like mental gymnastics to keep all these years straight. Again, this design preview is on our Instagram and Facebook. We published it a few days ago. And it seems like a lot more bold colors. Like the cards just seem bolder this year. I don't know if you're a big Black Diamond guy.
I wasn't. I thought it was a little too spendy, but I am really intrigued by the new design preview. Obviously the band of colors are back, but they looked really cool.
I think that was a big hit last year from Black Diamond. Was the band of colors.
I am curious. I will be interested to see once pricing goes up, or see what pricing is when it's released. But
from a rookie perspective, the Diamond Relics are kind of the big chase out of Black Diamond. A little bit more of an interesting design. Again, you can see on our social media where they sort of bundled all the jewels together from them.
Yeah, it looks more straight line. Definitely looks more busy, but I think it looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. I really like in the design preview the all-time jewels autos. I know that design spoke out to me. And then this is one of the sets where the exquisite cards will kind of creep in, and the steals the show is there's a Beniers exquisite patch card there, not an auto, but the patch is just perfect in it. So, I mean, the card is just amazing.
That's a 4-figure card, right? If it has the Kraken eye, that is so sweet. The one they show on there.
I would think so.
That is so sweet with the red. That is bad. That is so bad.
The design preview or sell sheet just came out from Upper Deck. And I've checked, there's no pre-sales available yet on whether it be Dave & Adams or Steel City or Clout Centara in Canada. So I have no idea on pricing or when exactly it's coming out. But if you kind of want to plan ahead and kind of get a sneak like Black Diamond or want to get a sneak peek, I'd recommend going to our Instagram or Facebook and checking that out. So kind of a lot in new product. And with that, Troy, that is our show for the Monday edition of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. If you liked the episode, please leave a rating or review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show and you want to support us before Troy leaves for an NHL GM job, I'm sure at some point, you can do so for $5 a month. Join our out of 99 support level tier via Patreon. On the Patreon website, go to patreon.com, search for Hockey Cards Gongshow, or visit the link in the show description on the podcast app you're listening to us on now, or on our Instagram or TikTok profile. You can find a link in the link tree there. If you're not following us on social media, we are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. I believe, Troy, we had 99 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, so close.
Come on. Somebody get us to 100 there. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC. Have a great week, and we will talk to you all again on Thursday.